Hi guys, so let's talk about chapter 3, what you need to include in it so that you can wrap up chapters 1 through 3. Don't forget that you do have to have chapters 4 and 5 in order to complete your senior thesis, but you will work on chapters 4 and 5 with your advisor. So the layout of chapter 3 includes an introduction, a purpose statement, research questions or hypotheses, design of study, selection of sample, data collection and analysis, trustworthiness, limitations, and chapter summary. Your introduction is going to be very similar to chapters 1 and 2 introduction. First, you're going to have some type of hook or introductory phrase. Then you need some type of research on the background of your topic. You're going to also need to give your purpose statement in this chapter. You're going to have to review it by discussing what is in this chapter, and then it doesn't really need to be more than 2 or 3 paragraphs long. Your purpose statement comes next. Utilizing your purpose statement written for chapter 1, rewrite it in a different way and include it in this section. You might need to include some relevant research to go along with it. Don't reinvent the wheel, but don't write it exactly like you wrote it in chapters 1 and 2. Research questions or hypotheses. So remember, you only have to have one of these, either research questions or hypotheses. For research questions, don't forget those are qualitative. Your hypotheses are quantitative. So that's going to determine which one you use. But again, don't reinvent the wheel. Use the same thing that you wrote earlier on in this process. Your design of study should be about 2 or 3 paragraphs long. Remember, you either wrote your study as either qualitative or quantitative, and this is why or is it qualitative or why is it quantitative, and you're explaining that. Okay. Selection of sample. Write 2 to 3 paragraphs on how you chose your sample selection. Now remember, your sample are the people that you chose to utilize in the study. So why did you choose them? You're talking all about how you want to utilize pre-K teachers because it's important to get their opinion on the social and emotional development of pre-K and kindergartners. Okay? So you're choosing that for a reason. Now tell us why you chose that. Data collection and analysis. 2 to 3 paragraphs on how you will collect and analyze your data. Okay, so let's say we're going to collect our data outside of Target, and we are going to be searching for anyone who is interested in taking our survey. Well, that would go into the design of study like we just talked about. The selection of sample. But in this aspect, you want to talk about how are you going to collect that data? Are you going to go out to Target and just randomly select people? Are you going to look at Tougaloo College students? Are you going to go to pre-K places and inquire with their teachers? How are you going to collect your data? Then how are you going to analyze your data? Are you doing qualitative or quantitative? That has something to do with how you're going to analyze your data, believe it or not. So if you're doing qualitative, then basically you're going to interview people. You're going to transcribe those interviews. You're going to type it all up. And then you're going to develop themes based on the data that you collected. So really you need to think long and hard. How are you going to collect the data? And then how are you going to analyze the data? If you're doing quantitative, then it's very simple. You're going to run a t-test or some other type of test to see You might find the mode of the question. Or you might find the mean, the median, the mode, any of those types of things. Or you might go more statistically involved and have to talk to, your methodologist about that. But you need to think about now, how are you going to collect the data and what are you going to do with the data once you actually get it? Trustworthiness. All right, so 1 to 2 paragraphs about how trustworthiness will be incorporated in your study. So trustworthiness is established through the use of the following. Credibility is how confident the researcher is in the truth of the research findings. Transferability is how the researcher demonstrates that research study findings are applicable to other contexts. Confirmability is the degree of neutrality that the research findings. So in other words, this means that the findings are based on the participants' responses and not any potential bias or personal motivations of the researcher. And then finally, you have dependability, in which the extent of the study could be repeated by other researchers and that those findings would be consistent. So if you wanted to replicate your study, then that means that dependability is basically, I'm going to replicate my study in this environment and the results might be the same. Limitations. So limitations are the potential weaknesses in your study and are out of your control. So you already wrote 3 to 5 weaknesses before, but you need to now elaborate on those potential limitations, those potential weaknesses. Don't just copy and paste from chapter 1. You can use the same ideas, but they should be worded differently and you should be adding to them. Finally, you have a chapter summary, which, just like any other chapter summary, it is going to include all of the above points that were discussed in chapter 3, or this is everything in your syllabus that was highlighted in orange, but you are going to now put it in your own words and wrap it up the chapter. Okay, so this is chapter 3. I know I threw it out there really, really quick at you, but I believe that if you go through this step by step, then you should be able to finish up chapter 3 quite easily. I'm going to put out for you a copy of a student sample of chapter 3 so that you can see what it looks like. So be looking for that as well. Any questions, you can email me and I'll be happy to answer. Thanks so much.